Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Welcome back to another nervous guide to a show. If you've never been here before, we'll get into what that is in a second, but this is the nervous guide to Come From Away. So if you want to know my experience in the show and anything surrounding the nervous guide, stick around and we'll get into it in 2 whole seconds. Welcome to another nervous guide. Like I said, this one is for Come From Away. If you don't know what a nervous guide is, sit down because we're going to spend a couple of minutes just explaining what I do. Ready? Let's go. We're not cheerleading. Anyway, so for each show that I see, I like to do 2 separate videos on that show. Number 1, the nervous guide, which is this. In the nervous guide, we discuss my experience in the show, anything about the theatre that you may need to know. I am a parent and I didn't know it. Any sensory warnings, any content warnings, anything you want to or you might find helpful knowing before seeing the show. The second video that I do is what will happen next, and that is my review. The reason I put the review in inverted commas is because I'm in no way professional. I just like talking about theatre. I basically just talk about things that I've enjoyed in the show, things I didn't enjoy in the show, any cast that I would like to shout out, anything that you would expect from a review-esque review. That will be in next time's video. But there we are. That was actually quite quick, I feel. Hopefully. But moving on, let's talk about firstly my experience seeing Come From Away, and in regards to the theatre that is. So I feel like I've said this a lot recently because in the last month or so, the theatre that I saw Come From Away in, I've spent so much money in. It is the Wolverhampton Grand. It is one of my local theatres. Some may say my most local, and they have been doing so well with tours recently that I have spent pretty much every Friday bar 2 in the last like 6 weeks seeing theatre. And I'm not sorry about that. This time for this show I was sat in the Grand Circle, basically because I very stupidly booked this really late, and by the time I got to booking my tickets there was literally no space in the stalls, which is my preferred, no space in the dress circle, which is usually my second best, and there was limited space in the Grand Circle, which is where I sat. For this show I sat in D33 and D34. Both seats, the ticket says it's an angle view and that parts of the stage are not visible. This, for the most part, for this show is not true. Well, it is an angled view, but we hardly missed anything. The only time we missed one thing is because someone was very front of stage on our side, and it was literally like a 10-second moment and then they moved. So I really did not miss anything. Plus, you may be able to tell, quite the fan anyway. On my back wall there is already 2 Come From Away things, one of which being a like a flyer for the tour, and also the show that I feel should still be in the Phoenix, but that's a story for a different day. So it's not like I was seeing the show for the first time and was going to miss a great deal if the angle wasn't quite right. But to be fair, the position of those seats is pretty decent. I have sat in a similar area for a few shows recently, and I haven't seen that much of a problem. Let's put it that way, politely. But it's always nice to have that little warning, if you will, My one downside with the Grand Circle, and this is why when I said it's my third choice in the Grand, is because the legroom is just not as good as the other two levels for me. I am about 5'7"-ish. I haven't measured myself for many years, and I haven't been measured, but I'm around that mark, and I am of the larger person persuasion. So yes, I always find the Grand Circle a little bit tighter than the rest. It's not like I'm squashed, but I always find it slightly less comfortable, and with this show being a 1 hour 40 minutes straight through show, no break, no interval, it does mean that there was a few times towards the end that I was kind of wiggling in my seat because I needed to move, especially as I had recently and still am suffering with dodgy ankles after being of an age where you take falls and hurt yourself. I have got 2 dodgy ankles right now, and sitting still for that length of time was a bit uncomfortable. But hey ho, we move on. If you thought that I was not going to see this show whilst it was in Wolverhampton, you had another thing coming. In regards to sensory warnings, I can't say that I can give you any. For the most part, there is no loud noises. There is nothing too flashy in lights. The lighting design in this show is pretty good and quite simple. There isn't a lot of flashes. There is a couple of times where the lights are dimmed in certain areas of the stage, but there is never a full blackout. It's just nice to not have anything to warn you about. Saying that, I have seen this show 4 times, so if there was something, it's probably embedded in me that I knew what was coming and I didn't have a problem with any of it. But yeah, sensory wise, for once I have nothing to say, and it's the best thing ever. Content wise, the only thing to mention is something that you are more than likely going to be made aware of if you book your tickets, although the amount of people who are my audience who didn't realise it was a straight through play, I was like, seriously? I was stood buying my little programme at the bar, and there was people trying to get drinks put aside for the interval to be told there isn't one. They were like, wait, what? Surely you'd at least read it when booking your tickets or seeing it in a anyway, that's a story for a different day. But the main content warning, if you will, is the discussion of death and, in a way, terrorism. Obviously this show is set the day after the 9/11 attacks in America, so that is mentioned a few times throughout the show. As someone who was alive when that happens, everyone has their own memories of what happened on that day anyway, but a lot of people lost their lives, and there is mention of that throughout the show. But for the most part, this show is much more about community and paying it forwards and being there for each other, and it's just a message that I feel like should be put out there more and more. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing this video and doing this nervous guide, because as they even say in the show, be anxious for nothing, and there is nothing to be anxious of in this show. It's my dream. But there we are, all done and dusted. As you can tell, I am a massive fan of this show, so if you want to know my thoughts and feelings on it, stick around and that'll be my next video. But be prepared to just have a love fest for about 10 minutes. I hope you don't mind. But there we are, that is the Nervous Guide all done and dusted. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions or if you want to add anything, please leave it down in the comments area as always. But that is it. I'm going to leave you be. So thank you very much. I love you all lots, and all that's left to say is the usual, and that is so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. Bye.